Sojola here. In this video, we'll be basically giving a brief review and an update on the events and the ongoings of the war in Gaza, right? As we all know, the war started on the 7th of October with a surprise attack that was labeled as Al-Aqsa Flood by Hamas, right? Where about 1,200 Israelis were killed and about 250 were taken hostage by Hamas. Then, what followed after that was a retaliation from the IDF, right, which is the Israeli Defense Forces, particularly using an air campaign. There was an air campaign for about 3 weeks, which targeted particularly northern Gaza, right, and central Gaza, which is known as Gaza City. Now, when you look deep into the air campaigns, right, they are of a twofold nature, right? Firstly, the air campaigns is to destroy the fortifications and military installations that Hamas has dug in all around Gaza, right? But the main reason there was air campaigns that started from the northern side of Gaza, right, to the central part of Gaza was to fundamentally displace the Palestinians towards the south. Now, after displacing and basically pushing um, the Palestinians towards the south, they started with a ground offensive, which is basically soldiers on the ground, tanks going basically street to street, building to building, trying to take over and remove certain installations that Hamas has installed. They also tried to find tunnels and destroy them in the process. There has been heavy fighting, particularly in northern Gaza and central Gaza, where you find Gaza City, right? There were a number of fortified tunnels that the Hamas fighters built, which managed to somehow help them to fight against the ongoing ground offensive by the IDF. Now, the next area to be targeted by the IDF, right, is an area that is known as Deir al-Ballah, right, which basically hosts the famous hospital known as the Al-Aqsa Hospital. This hospital was believed to have tunnels which basically connected it to the greater Hamas tunnels, right, that you find in the greater Gaza, right? So this was the next area which was targeted. There were bombings, shellings, right? And particularly targeting of civilians. As we all know, this targeting of civilians is just to push the displaced Palestinians, right, further towards the south, right, and to particularly remove them from central Gaza. Khan Younis was the next area to feel the wrath of the IDF air campaign and ground campaign. But here there were particularly two tragic events that occurred. The first one is basically the bombing of a refugee camp by IDF, basically claiming that Hamas militants are running into these refugee camps, right, of the displaced Palestinians and hiding amongst that. So they started bombing a refugee camp, right? That is quite tragic. The second tragic event, right, occurred around the famous and the biggest hospital that you found in southern Gaza, known as the Nasser or the Nasir Hospital. The tragic event that occurred in this hospital is that the IDF conducted a siege, right, around this hospital. Now, a siege is an event where the supplies are cut off, right? Nothing can come into the hospital and nothing can basically go out, right? So that's why there were reports of supplies falling short or running short in the Nasir hospital, right? Because of the fears that there might be a similar tunnel system that you find under Nasir Hospital that links the hospital to the greater Hamas tunnel system that is built underground. They also bombed a number of other areas within Khan Younis, right, to basically push the displaced Palestinians further south